Basketball has always been a game of evolution, with players constantly pushing the limits of what's possible on the court. But some players have pushed those boundaries so far that they've actually forced the NBA to change its rules. Today, we're going to look at the NBA players who not only changed the game with their skills, but also reshaped the game through rule changes. From moves that left defenders scratching their heads to styles of play that became so dominant, these players made the league adjust its rules to level the playing field. Let's start with one of the most dominant players in NBA history, Wilt Chamberlain. In the 1960s, Chamberlain was so powerful, so unstoppable, that the league had to create new rules to contain him. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points a game in the 1961 to 1962 season, and he even scored 100 points in a single game. The NBA had never seen anything like him. But his dominance led to a significant rule change, the no double team rule. Prior to this change, teams often doubled Chamberlain in the paint to try and stop him, but that strategy was too effective. The league responded by instituting a rule that prohibited defenders from double teaming the player holding the ball in the low post. Even after this rule was implemented, Chamberlain continued to dominate, but the change highlighted how one player could be so impactful that the entire game needed to adjust. Next up is Bill Russell, one of the greatest defenders in NBA history. Russell's ability to alter shots in the paint was legendary, but it led to a change that forever altered the way teams approached shot blocking. Russell was known for his shot blocking prowess, especially during the 1950s and 1960s when he was winning championships with the Boston Celtics. However, what made Russell's block so unique was his timing. The rule change? The goaltending rule, which prevents players from blocking a shot on its way down toward the basket. Prior to this rule, players like Russell were able to block any shot in midair, which disrupted offensive plays significantly. Russell's impact on the defensive side of the ball changed the dynamic of shot blocking, and as a result, the NBA adjusted its rules to prevent players from having too much control over a shot once it reached its apex. Magic Johnson was a game changer, not just for his passing, but for the very concept of position flexibility. At 6 feet 9 inches, Magic wasn't just a point guard, he was an all-around player who could play every position on the floor. In the 1980s, Magic revolutionized the game by bringing a level of court vision and passing that had never been seen before in a point guard. His ability to play any position caused a shift in how coaches viewed the traditional roles of players. This led to changes in how the league approached position classifications. In fact, Magic's success as a point guard with the body of a forward forced the NBA to embrace a broader understanding of player roles. This paved the way for positionless basketball. Today, we see players like LeBron James and Luka Doncic embody this versatility. Magic's influence can still be seen in the modern NBA, where positionless play has become a staple. Moving into the early 2000s, Allen Iverson was one of the most exciting and relentless players on the court. Standing at just 6 feet tall, Iverson had to find ways to survive in a league that was physical and defensively intense. Known for his crossover dribble and fearless drives to the basket, Iverson often found himself being heavily guarded and physically challenged by defenders who would use hand-checking, a tactic that allowed defenders to use their hands on offensive players to slow them down. SARS. To improve offensive flow and scoring, the NBA introduced the hand-checking rule in 2004, which restricted defenders from using their hands on an offensive player beyond the perimeter. This rule change was a direct response to Iverson's ability to draw fouls and break down defenders. As a result, the rule change helped usher in an era of faster-paced offenses, benefiting smaller, more dynamic players like Iverson. It changed the game in a way that favored quickness and skill over brute strength. From Wilt Chamberlain's dominance in the post to Allen Iverson's influence on hand-checking, these players didn't just change the way the game was played, they forced the league to evolve. As the NBA continues to grow and adapt, it's clear that the impact of these players can still be felt today. So, who's next? Which player will come along and change the rules again? One thing's for sure, the NBA is always in a state of flux, with its stars shaping its future as much as they shape the game itself.